Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with Season 6, Episode 48 of our weekly P&Q&C&A&T videos, which is a really long acronym. It's a Q&A. The P stands for podcast. You can check the links in the description if you want to listen to this in podcast format if you're currently on the video, but nobody does. So I think we can safely just move on. I think the people who are interested in that are probably already there. And for everybody else, we'll get right into the content. So our first question this week comes from Shem the Kid, and they say, is there a routine rotation for challenge characters? And then, as a follow-up, can someone keep track of the challenge characters' order of appearance, if any specific order online as well?
I guess there's a short answer that answers just the specific question and the sort of a bigger principle. So if you look at the history, and when I say history, I mean we've been doing recaps for, like a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the history, there does seem to be a pattern, but it gets interrupted every time they have an event to promote. So as an example, when the Joker movie was coming out, they stuck in the Suicide Squad characters into the challenge rotation out of order.
Mm-hmm.
So the related question is, can somebody keep track of them? I'm sure somebody could. The problem really is that nobody's felt it was worth the effort.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that there's no... It would be different if there was a pack that you could get a given challenge character in, or even if you could purchase them from the store. But the only times that you're able to purchase them, right, means that in all likelihood they're coming out next. Right. So there's no real sort of change in how it makes you play, right? Other than, I guess, expectation.
Yeah, there's no value to know it ahead of... It's not like the kind of knowledge, say, trying to figure out how to perform a glitch, where there's value to know it, right?
Yeah.
Aside from just,
you can knowing it. Yeah, but there's nothing to do about it, right? Even if you know exactly when they're coming in. I guess for people who are only playing Injustice to complete, and they've missed a couple of challenges here and there, it might help for them to pick up the stragglers. But I feel like making the system is still probably less work than checking in once a week.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, right? Because when we do the recap, that basically gives you the opportunity. We do it at the right time so that you got the opportunity to get one copy of the challenge character each week.
Yeah, so I guess for anybody who's trying to do that, I mean, the difference is having to check in every week instead of doing the work all at once ahead of time. But I think that's a very specific type of person.
I don't feel like it's worthwhile to spend the time when we've got so many other things going on. I mean, we still got a video we want to do that we just haven't gotten around to for maybe a few months.
Yeah. So there we go. That's the answers, sort of, probably, and not super useful, unfortunately.
And I think the next couple questions are related. They're not the same kind of question, but they're related to the principle. So maybe I'll let you get to those.
Yeah, we can read them together. The first of the set comes from Blacklight, and they say, I was awake until 2 a.m. just to get my online rewards, but it glitched a bit. And it said, you will get the rewards later, and I still haven't gotten it. Do you guys know about it? And then another one from Ethan San Miguel. And they say, when I started the online this season with Flashpoint Aquaman, I instantly got the lowest reward and still go to top 5, and I didn't get Aquaman.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So I think what they're both describing, and not so obviously with Blacklight, but more obviously with Ethan, is that this is the glitch for early season multiplayer rewards. But...
Well, Blacklight doesn't seem like they got it early.
Well,
I think they got it delayed.
I think it's actually not even delayed. So a lot of times when people say they've got it delayed, they never end up getting it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that is because they got it early but didn't realize it.
Okay.
So anytime something happens, I mean, this is the key question, sort of the key difference between a glitch and a bug. Mm-hmm. A bug, and
it's
they're
something
the same
that happens
thing.
To you.
Yeah, something happens to you and you don't want it. And a glitch, which is, for most people, actually is the same thing. But the way we use it in video games, I think, is something that we exploit for fun or for benefit or whatever.
I guess that's specifically the way we do it on our channel, because they do call it glitches sort of out in the public sphere when something weird happens in a game that's not supposed to. You say your game glitched out, right? So I think that is still common vernacular. Yeah. But it's just that there's, I guess...
So the language, at least that we use is...
We use glitch versus bug, but what might be more appropriate is exploit versus glitch or bug. Whereas we call it a glitch when it's useful to us, but really a glitch is just any issue, and an exploit is something that is specifically and only something you choose to do.
So this is something where it would be worth putting in the time. So related to the previous question is, like, what is it worth putting in the time just to do it for sake of doing it, where there's no advantage, no benefits, just sort of having an idea of what's going on, versus if we could, I mean, if these viewers could actually remember what they did, reproduce what they did, and potentially reproduce the effect, that would be the difference between a glitch or bug and something that you can actually exploit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the basis, I think, for every glitch that we've ever done on this channel, which are the most popular videos on this channel. And you know, normally that's not really a big deal, except for the fact that the number of views and how popular it is really, I'm sort of saying it about a roundabout way, but the number of views, we're not worried about being popular, but the number of views tells us exactly what's important to the viewers. So when something gets 300,000 views, we know that's something useful and important compared to something that gets only a few hundred views that we do just because we want to.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No problem. So there we go. Our next question comes from Aaron Rutledge, and they say, "Hey guys, I'm hoping you can answer this for me. I've already played Survivor, and I've gotten over 100 tickets this week, and I haven't gotten a single League of Assassins knives. I've gotten at least 10 copies of each of the Hood and the Blade. Are there different chances of getting it between the set, or am I just insanely unlucky?" And then the edit is, "Never mind, I got it finally, but it would be cool to have an explanation why it took so long."
So with each of the Survivor sets, there is, except for the Suicide Squad companion gears. So the Fourth World gear set, the LexCorp gear set, and the League of Assassins gear set, each one of them has a chase card. So it's one that's rarer than the other ones.
Yeah, which happens in a lot of sort of rare probability and gambling based stuff, right?
For sure.
Like whenever they do the McDonald's Monopoly, the whole point of that is that there's like chase ones for each set, right? Where you get like all a Park Place or whatever.
So at one point I used to be sort of into action figures, and they do that for action figures too. So they have one variation that would be short packed. And a funny instance of not this, but something that was hard to find. Do you remember Shrek, the movie?
I do remember Shrek the movie.
So at one point they had action figures.
I think everybody remembers Shrek the movie.
Okay, so Todd McFarlane, who the artist who also collected home run balls, baseballs, at one point had a toy company, and his toy company was responsible for some of the Shrek action figures, and there was one, the dragon action figure was the rare one. It was the chase one. So in each box of a bunch of other ones, there was a dragon. It was really rare. It had bendy wings. And so it became hard to find, and it was the one that you'd find on eBay selling for lots more money.
Huh. There's currently a dragon from Shrek in this room.
Yes, on the bookshelf. That's exactly right. So that's the reason I know it, because I thought it looked cool. I like dragons, and I wanted to pick one up. And
that's not the same one, though, right? That's a massive different. That's not from like a random pack, is it?
It's not so much that it's a random pack that you don't know what you're getting inside. It's that when the store would order a box of Shrek toys, they would get fewer of the dragons than they would of the other figures.
Oh wait, so it is that one?
The one on the shelf
is the rare one,
that's
or is that different?
One.
Oh,
that's
okay.
One. Yeah,
we should post a picture of that,
or not.
I didn't realize. I thought you were talking about a blister pack thing. This is large.
It's pretty large.
It's like
it came in its own box.
Oh my god. Okay.
So what's interesting too, though, is that when they had the update that had each of these gear sets, they'd give you the information about them, and we'd unlock it, and we'd take a look at it, and it became really obvious to me from the Fourth World gear set, which was the most important, which was the mace, because that splash damage on Ares is now, and was going to be, when we saw it, was going to be the most important piece. Same with League of Assassins gear set, where the knives, where you get splash damage of 50%, that was game-changing, and we knew that from the very beginning. But to me, out of the LexCorp gear set, it's not obvious to me why the gauntlets would be the chase one, because it's not like it's that much better than the other two pieces. Not like for the mace or the knives.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just it. It's
the long and the short of it is that your intuition is right, and one of them is much more rare.
Yeah, I've heard people actually try to make the argument that the League of Assassins hood was more rare for them, but I think it's probably not that all three are of equal rarity. It's that there's one that's really common, one that's not that common, one that's really rare. And again, when we're talking about thousands of people playing, somebody's probably going to get a different experience in terms of what they pick up.
Yeah, I mean, the entire point of it is that it's probabilistic, right? Yeah. So you can open 100 packs with a 50% likelihood of getting something and not get any of it, right?
Right.
And that's super, super, super unlikely. But if your sample size is big enough, that's the whole sort of point of like probability distributions and all that, right? Where it's not about if you have a big enough number of things happening, then, you know, something really, really unlikely is going to happen to one of the players, right? If there's 10, 20,000, however many people, right? You start increasing the chance that some people are going to have really sort of weird, from a probabilistic stance, like experiences. Yeah. So there we go. This next thing is not exactly a question. And it's not exactly a comment either. It was an email. So this is from Kenneth Tong. And they say, "Hey guys, I was wondering if I could get you to advertise this petition and sign it too, of course." And then there's a link. I think we'll be putting it in the description of this video.
Sure. Yep.
It's a petition to get Warner Brothers to update their damn game. I usually wouldn't do something like this, but I feel like I've waited long enough for an update. This is not about self-promotion or me seeking recognition. It's literally just to get them to update the game, and seeing as nobody has created a petition yet, it might as well be me. I've listened to a ton of your podcasts, and you guys seem like reasonable people, so I'm really hoping that you spread the word about this petition. Thanks for your time. Signed, an avid Injustice fan.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Okay, so it's interesting on a lot of different levels, and it twigs... It sort of scratches a couple itches in my head and pulls things together that I've been thinking or that I've been reading about politics. Okay, so first blush, what do you think? What do you think the chance of this petition... What are the chances of this petition being successful?
Unfortunately, I think that for what this is... I mean, the problem is, this isn't a circumstance like, I don't know, when Brooklyn Nine-Nine got canceled, right? And there was like a million people who wanted it back on, right? And there was genuine buzz, you know, sort of trending on Twitter stuff. Unfortunately, I think the nature of what Injustice is as a mobile game is there's not a ton of people to rally around. You know, we're not going to get the kind of overwhelming numbers that shows Warner Brothers that it's still worth updating, because I think for a lot of this stuff, they get the data, right? They know how many people are playing multiplayer still.
Yeah, exactly. They know exactly,
They know probably how many active users there are who are connecting to Wi-Fi. Right? They know the people who are buying the packs. And I think the unfortunate reality is that their decisions are being made based off of the profitability, right? For them. And so they already have the numbers, and they're sort of deciding with the numbers of people. Right, people are voting with their wallets and their time.
So hold on, though. So you mentioned as a comparison Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Can't you make the same argument that they have all the data about how many people are watching and how big their audience is at the point where they said we're not going to carry it anymore?
Yeah, and it got picked up by somebody else, right? It didn't get picked up by the same people. They didn't undo it, right? It's just that there was enough buzz, right? And whether or not the
buzz
existed...
Where did it go from? What channel did it go from?
I think it went from Fox to NBC.
So Fox, I guess that's... I wonder if... Because that's not entirely the point I was trying to make, but that... So you've got the numbers. A lot of the numbers are public. So Nielsen keeps track of the viewership. So they have that information. What's the difference? I mean, maybe the... Not maybe. I'm sort of already saying it and I'm asking this question, but I really already believe this. The question then is... You've got a number of viewers. You don't know how much those advertising dollars are worth. So
what you also don't have is streaming data, because streaming, right? That's one of the things, is that the cancellation was based off of Nielsen, and a lot of people are finding it off of like when it went on to Netflix and a secondary streaming. I think NBC is also picking it up to be part of their own streaming platform. So I think that's supposed to be value added in a different way.
Yeah,
so there's a ton of factors in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I was thinking more along the lines of when the difference between somebody who's just watching it and people who are engaged is that the engaged people are more valuable to advertisers.
Yeah.
Whereas in Injustice, how much you're engaged doesn't matter, because the only revenue stream for the game Injustice is the game Injustice, the in-app purchases.
And the ads. Which you can't watch anymore, I don't think.
Well, the ads are gone. I guess that's...
was the ads.
And even when there was, I guess so. But they already knew how many people were watching the ads, right? Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They have all the data, and
they're not going to be able to get more out of those. Like, they're not going to be able to make the ads more lucrative, unlike I think TV.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. So I think that's the problem, is that people are voting with their money, and you can't really, like, I think even if everybody who would be game to sign a potential petition, would buy something with an in-app purchase. I have no clue what their bottom line is, what kind of margins they're looking for, but I think it would be hard to affect sort of meaningful scale change, right?
Right.
With this, and you know, for all that, like, I guess, pessimism.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still going to sign the petition. I'm still sign the petition, fingers crossed, right?
I guess we never made the point is that we totally agree with the idea. We like the idea. Now, hold on. We got to wait till a few more people sign it because it requires a name and an email.
Oh, okay. That's true. Well, I can use a fake information. I have a fake name and fake email. I have 2 fake names and fake email, so I can sign up for both of us. And people,
That's not...
even if people got back to, I mean, they're populated like real people.
Okay, so that's not really how petitions work, I don't think.
They're not gonna come back and check for us.
Okay.
We got to.
So, all right. So this is the point I was originally alluding to about activism. So this is a form of activism, right? Where instead of just passively accepting things as they come, this is sort of the situation, and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
This is trying to make a difference. And there's a website that I read called Making Light. And there's a number of people who post things up on, and I guess technically it's sort of like a blog, but a relatively inactive one. I guess lately they haven't been doing much, but it was mainly run by the couple, the Nielsen Haydens, who are editors. One's sort of is he the head acquiring editor for Tor now?
I don't know.
And his wife, who also works for Tor. I don't know if she is an employee now or whether she does it independently, but she gets a lot of the credits. I've seen her name credited to a lot of the books from Tor that I like, from authors I like. So they had a post, this is actually quite timely, just on Christmas Eve about the...
That's not Christmas Eve, that's New Year's Eve.
Oh, New Year's Eve. About things that you can do to make a difference and activism. And one of the responses, because Making Light is one of those places where you go as much for the post as you do for the comments, because some of the comments are very enlightening and interesting. So one person named Vina says, so I'm going to just read 2 or 3 paragraphs. Speaking as an activist of decades of experience, door knocking and phone banking are the most successful methods. They're expensive to do because they're labor intensive, but they're absolutely the most effective. If you have the ability to volunteer, it would be a great use of your time. That said, I encourage all new activists to let go of any pressure in trying to figure out the right way to help. Just help. You'll be making a difference, and the work will start to feel more comfortable as you get more experience. Change it up if you need to. If door knocking isn't possible, try phones. If not phones, write postcards. If not postcards, switch to envelope stuffing. If not a campaign, then a GOTV, which is, I guess it stands for Get Out the Vote. If not GOTV, then a service charity. Whatever work you can find that suits you is good work to be doing. And the last paragraph to me is the kicker. In my experience, hobbyist culture spends a lot of time invalidating earnest effort. I encourage new activists to ignore any and all folks who denigrate whatever work you decide to try. Perfect is the enemy of the good.
Mm-hmm.
Just help. There's never enough hands for the work. Just help.
So there we go.
I love that sentiment because, here's the thing. So it's really easy to poo-poo stuff and say, yeah, it's a waste of time. Don't bother. You're not making any difference.
Yeah.
But that's a real defeatist attitude.
Yeah, for sure.
And I like the idea that if you just start doing something, you never know what's going to hit.
It's true. And for this example specifically, this is basically what we can do, right?
Yes.
So it's worthwhile to try it.
Yes.
Especially because the sort of unit effort on everybody's part is relatively minimal.
Absolutely. I mean, seriously, for the time that we put into the game, I think we'd be painful hypocrites if we weren't willing to
sign a petition,
jump in, and it's low effort.
Yeah. So for all the talking about my sort of not misgivings about it, but I guess things that I hope aren't true, but I fear are.
Yeah.
About the state of the game. I'm going to be signing the petition, and I recommend anybody else who's listened to this point, takes a second and signs it too. Couldn't hurt.
Yes.
Might help, couldn't hurt.
the couple dozen people who watch this and listen to the podcast.
Yeah, so there we go. And I think that's everything we want to say about the petition, right?
Yes.
There we go.
Links Good luck and thank you for making the effort, Kenneth.
Yeah, for sure. Worth talking about. Next question comes from Lucrative Duck, and they say, can you do a video or something along the lines of the best way / fastest way to complete Phantom Zone?
Okay. Now, we've been sitting on this idea of doing a video on it for ages now, and I think we've got sort of an idea just demonstrating. We've got the principles in mind. So let me look at the notes. Since August of last year.
Yeah.
For completing the Elite Phantom Zone quickly. And so, just talking on the forums, I get a sense that completing one crystal between 15 and maybe tops 25 minutes is reasonably fast for one crystal run. So that's 5 times that for one final Phantom Zone reward.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some principles that may not be so obvious, but we're really demonstrating them every time the Phantom Zone event is there. And we're using that as our background video for our P&Q&C&A&T.
Mm-hmm.
Or P&Q&C&A&T. Actually, I screwed that up. PQ.
Wouldn't have noticed.
So maybe broad strokes. I mean, the article is there. If you're one of our patrons, you already know this. And I think the important thing is figuring out and realizing which of the tasks are the fastest and the most point efficient.
Yeah.
And the related point is that to know that when you first start a crystal, before you've done anything, you can change the tasks by opting into the veteran crystal or the regular crystal and then coming back to it, because then it's almost like a re-roll.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it after you've completed something, it clears everything you've done. If you haven't started it's a great way to start. And what you want to do, it might take a minute or two, it's totally worth the trouble, is you want to get at least 2, preferably 3, of the 3 fastest tasks. And it may not... It feels like it should be obvious. So the 3 fastest tasks are always win 10 online matches in a row. So it's worth 270 points out of your 1,500. And it is worth twice as much as the next, which is 135. And if you can complete it in 2 or 3 matches. It'll take 3 if you're starting right from the beginning and you're starting with the first online fight, which is true if you're trying to roll it at the beginning. But in 3 fights, you get 270. And averaging 135 per fight is actually really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Inflicting 393,750 basic damage is worth 135. But you can typically complete that in 1 match, even if it's the first fight, as long as you're fighting at a high enough level. And I guess when we're doing the Elite Crystal, the underlying assumption is we're getting maximum battle points now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the amount of damage we're able to inflict pretty easily. And so what you need is a basic damage dealer. Somebody who, in the Flashpoint team, basically everybody's a basic damage dealer. So it's not that hard. And the one that's a little bit harder, but still relatively easy, is Steel 393,750 health. And you can complete this in 1 or 2 matches. And in this case, LexCorp chest armor on your special specialist doing special 2 is your friend, because you can do that in 1 fight. The reason why we actually have trouble with Flashpoint team, and again, this may not be obvious, is that when we use Deathstroke, his teammates coming in for the pirate crew, their damage doesn't count towards his special 2. And that's why sometimes it takes us 2, and if we're really unlucky, 3 fights, because if his teammates are doing the bulk of the damage.
Yeah, it doesn't count towards this total. You can't use it for the steel health total.
Right. And so there's other things, I think, like the katana, which becomes that sword. Ancient katana becomes...
Soul Taker?
Soul Taker sword, right. That is a lower percentage. So LexCorp chest armor is the best because it is such a high percentage. I think it's 90-something% or even 100.
Yeah.
And everything else sort of falls into the harder to do, takes a long time. It depends on whether you've got the right team for it. And then there's the real stinkers where it's really a total waste of your time.
Yeah, so we went through the good, which is the stuff that you're looking for. And now we can talk about the stuff that you specifically need to avoid.
Right. And there's I think maybe 2 or 3 depending on how you want to count. So performing 80 super moves is ridiculous. Because even with the bonus, let's say you've maxed out and you're getting both the 3 times bonuses, that's giving you, I think how they count it is, they don't give you 3 times 3 to give you 9. They give you plus or times 3 plus times 3, which is 6 times.
Yeah.
So if you need to do 80 super moves, you need to do literally 24 super moves.
Yeah.
24 super moves, building up to 3 bars of power. The fastest way is probably with Red Entry Hal Jordan. And the most you're going to get for any one fight, maximum, I think. Well, that's not true. There's some revives you'll get more. But really, practically,
just,
like
it's
couple
going to
super
take
moves
you a lot of time.
Right,
a lot of fights.
Especially if you're not prioritizing doing other tasks at the same time. The beauty of winning a certain number of fights is that you can still do the basic damage in the same fight.
Yeah.
And so super moves is ridiculous. Stealing power is also ridiculous because it doesn't register properly.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be that bad if it worked as it was supposed to, but it just doesn't work sometimes.
Yeah. And I think what falls into this is also combo enders. Because having to do 235 combo enders, that's on a basic attack team. Combo enders don't always trigger. If you're focused on only doing tap combos,
your damage output's going to be nerfed.
And so if you're actually fighting multiplayer, where the matchmaker is giving you somebody that's competitive, then you're going to have some trouble winning. You might actually lose some if you're focusing on that.
Yeah, you really have to sort of balance your goals. And so you're balancing between either completing the crystals or winning your matches. Whereas for the fast ones, you can do them while you're doing other stuff, and it's really easy and smooth.
Yeah. And one of the things, I guess, to make a point of is that if you've got at least one of the easy ones, then you probably don't need to re-roll because you can finish it fast enough in a fight or two. With the Flashpoint team we're talking, each fight is less than a minute easily.
Yeah.
Then it's going to take you a minute or 2 minutes to re-roll and get something else, so you don't bother. But when you're stuck with none of the super fast ones, and especially if you got one of the crappy ones, re-roll it once. Every crystal, I think we allow ourselves one re-roll that costs 5 nth metal.
Yeah.
Because our time's worth something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the starting point. And then figure out and the strategy of when to re-roll and when not to. We go into that a lot more detail in the article, but I think that's probably the most important part is figuring out what works, recognizing what doesn't, and then trying to avoid the situations where you're spending a bunch of time working on a task that'll take you even 5-10 minutes, which is a complete waste because that 5-10 minutes could be spent just completing the entire 1,500 points instead of just one task or the 4 tasks that are stuck there that none of which are any good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there we go. Is that everything you want to say? Give or take.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
closing arguments.
Listen, I think I'm still holding out hope that we're gonna find the time to make a video out of it. Clearly, this is not the year for it. And I mean, on a personal note, there's a couple things. There's one big thing happening at work that's eating away at my leisure time, and then there's some family stuff where we might actually have to take a
2-week hiatus.
Maybe. Let's see what we can work out because I'm gonna be in another country.
Yeah, and I will not be.
But we were able to make it work when you were living in residence, right?
Yeah, that's true. We'll figure it out.
The magic of the internet can sometimes, in this case, be overcome by the magic of time zones.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to figure out how that works.
Yep.
So there we go. Our next and final question comes, or not question, this is a comment, comes from Brian Bucklein, and this was from a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Not last episode. And not the week we missed, so from the episode before, but we talked a little bit about textbooks. And so Brian says, as a professor, I can tell you there are no financial incentives from publishers for using their textbooks. If you are the author, you get royalties. If not, it is recommended as a learning aid. And first off, I just think this stuff is always cool, where when we say stuff, and in that case, I think we can fairly admit that I think it was me in that case. I was talking out of my ass a little bit, right? Didn't know what I was talking about, and I made an assumption, and somebody who is directly knowledgeable about that corrected me. So first off, thanks, Brian.
Yes.
Good to know I was incorrect.
And he didn't respond to my comment. I mean, I was a little bit late with it, but I was going to ask, was Brian a professor who happened to stumble upon this, or was he actually interested in injustice stuff? And as it turns out, when I did a search of the comments, he'd actually commented or responded to somebody's comment 3 years ago.
Okay, so pops in every once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that's interesting to me, because some of the behaviors of the professors surrounding implementing textbooks would maybe indicate to me that there was some incentive. But I guess it makes sense if it's just a useful learning tool, because I know that also for a lot of the classes that I'm in, the good professor or bad professor, a lot of time they're going through the information in the textbook and just sort of using their own examples, translating it into sort of a lecture format, right? But they're taking the rough sort of content from the textbook.
Okay, but see, here's the problem I have with it, because at least if there were some sort of kickback, it would make sense.
Yeah.
Because this sort of defies logic, really, that if there's a textbook coming out with a new edition every couple of years, which is what happens, right?
Yeah.
What it means is that the students can no longer buy the used edition, that the professor adopts the new one, and any kind of page references or whatever. And we know in 2 years there's not enough to completely rewrite the textbook. There are going to be changes, for sure. But when we talk about, say, a regular book, like something people read for fun, fiction, then they don't, if there's a mistake in one book or something that needs to be fixed, they don't pulp the whole run. They can easily print up an errata page, so errata being the Latin word for mistakes, I think.
Yeah.
Then they can, and they stick a page in it. They stick a page saying, let's say, I have an art book where they had the illustration pages wrong. So they stuck a new page in, and they gave you the new pages. Yeah.
See, I feel like what we need to do after this comment is maybe do a little research and come back next week and explain why they redo the things every week. Because I know in high schools, right, where they don't have the budget for that, they just use like the same textbooks for like 20 years and they just hand them out to students and then give them back, right?
Right.
And I think part of it is that the scale of university, in a lot of cases, means that they can't just do things the exact same way. But there's, to me, when you're talking about something like physics, right?
Yeah.
Where you're not really getting new information, I think.
Right.
In any sort of time frame, why the university doesn't buy their stockpile from 1 year. And then maybe it's just too much of a hassle to handle out renting or buying a stockpile, right? Because you need to have stock in the bookstore, right? With every subsequent year. And you can't buy old editions, so that they have to move over to the new editions to be fair for the people who are coming in and buying them who aren't able to find them used, right? Like, but I'm not sure, right?
So that's the publisher's fault.
Yeah, obviously my intuitions are wrong, right? Because my intuition that
your suspiciousness,
that professors were getting,
your cynicism,
had some value, right?
There was some underlying reason why they were endorsing and supporting what to me seems like a predatory practice, where you're taking advantage and exploiting students. You've got a captive audience. They've got really no choice. Like when a professor picks a book, you don't get to pick. It's not like in English where you can pick, or say Shakespeare, where you can pick which edition of Shakespeare you want. Or actually, maybe you can't, because each edition might have their own sort of peculiarities, right?
But the point is, I was obviously wrong, so I'm now a little bit reticent to try to make any secondary claims, right? Saying, oh, I was wrong about that, but maybe this, right? And I think I just need to figure it out. Because that is interesting to me, is, like, I wonder where the sort of financial gain is. If it's all the publisher, and if so, why universities are engaging in it, if it's the university, and if so, who was our comment from? Brian. If Brian's experience as having no financial incentive maybe leaves out push from the university, or if some universities or colleges don't push their professors to use textbooks the same way, right? I'll have to sort of figure that out.
Yeah, and
it's interesting to me.
So the fault might lie ultimately. Well, it feels like then the fault more lies with the publisher, because.
But I don't know, right?
Or no, for sure, yeah. But I think the exercise of thinking it through is valuable too. I think definitely what you're saying, as far as getting the right answer, the true answer, is important.
Yeah.
But I think there's also the aspect of what we're talking through. I think we're reasonably typical.
Yeah.
Of people who might be required to buy these textbooks.
There is a proportion of fault that lies with the publisher, and the question is if there is sort of collusion with the university, right? Mm-hmm. And whether or not that turns into pressure, or in some cases potentially, depending on the university, like lesser partial incentive, right? That's the question, because Brian obviously has let us know that definitely the professors don't benefit financially in every circumstance, right?
Yeah.
So we just need to figure out where sort of the external influence is to do textbooks the way they're currently being done comes from.
So here's the thing. I mean, if they are just learning aids, then is there no learning aid that's available that's able to be current and maintain its, I don't even know what word I'm looking for, stay current without having to print a new edition every 2 years?
Yeah. And I think, not every class I've been in has textbooks, right? And one of the classes that I was in, I think I mentioned this last time we talked about it, right, just had online, like, database that you would look at your articles, which were just, from whatever the library reference is, where they have like the journal articles and whatever, right? On loan, where they were able to.
Right, and as a student, you have access to all the journals.
Them. Yeah.
So with a little bit of work, like just having a reference list would be enough, and you could actually get all the newest information relatively easy as a university student.
Yeah, that's true, but it would not be synthesized. I think learning in that format would be brutal, and if that's actually what the value is, if the textbook is just collating and describing results from research in a way that's actually sort of studyable, instead of as like this massive reference list that you have to trawl through yourself, then I think the textbooks are actually, pulling their weight, right? If that's how you conceptualize them.
All right, so how much are your textbooks costing?
It depends. New, no less than probably $125 at the low end, and up to probably around about $200.
All right, so here's another interesting calculus then. So when I was going to school, we're talking like 30 years ago, then the prices for textbooks were pretty comparable. I mean, they were maybe just under 100 to just over 100, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And
tuition was, I want to say it was just under $2,000 a year.
Wow.
So maybe 25, you'd spend maybe 10%, 200, is that right? Maybe $200 to $500, I think, in textbooks for your courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 25%. What's tuition now?
8,000, give or take.
Okay, so are you spending
a semester? Right?
Are you
maybe 14,000 for the year.
Really, 8,000 per semester?
It's more like 7,000 per semester, not 8,000, I think. Or was that including residence?
That was residence.
Okay, no, 8,000 per year. No, that's correct.
Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, so if I think our perspective, it's actually a better deal now to get textbooks when you consider how much
proportionally.
Yeah, because how much are textbooks now? Proportionally, they're not $2,000 a year. Are they?
No, I think at most they'd be about $1,000 a year.
Okay.
And on the low end, they'd probably be, well, actually, there's 5 courses per semester. If each course has a $200 textbook, it could be as much as $2,000 per year.
Okay.
It's between $1,000 and $2,000, so actually it is maybe about as bad.
All right, so then that again, that's, I don't know that there's a right answer, but that was an attempt to put it in perspective, where, to me, clearly tuition has
increased at a different rate.
Increased at a predatory rate? Do I want to say that? It's just increased way more because it's become deregulated, at least at Ontario universities.
And that's not even considering international students coming in. I don't know. It might have been the same sort of higher rates back then, right? But I'm talking about 8,000, and I'm talking about, like, my international student friends are, like, 40, 50,000.
Wow.
A year, yeah.
I feel like 40, 50,000 might be above the median income. For like an adult working.
I think the median income is like 43,000, give or take, in Ontario.
Wow.
I'm not 100% sure. That was numbers from a while ago, but I remember it was in the 40,000s.
Okay. So it feels like it's definitely taking advantage of people, and I don't want to use the word
median household income in Ontario was 74,000.
Household.
But yeah, median here you can
median individual income.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it feels like it's the exploitation of students. It's the exploitation of the generation that no longer has the assurance that they'll have a good chance at a job that they can stay in for the rest of their life, while still being forced to get an education that's priced beyond what you could really reasonably expect people to pay for. So they're saddled with this exorbitant student debt, and then they don't get the kind of job that lets them pay it off properly. And so, boomers wonder why millennials and Generation Z feel like they are screwed.
Okay. Average salary in Canada is 53,000 per year. I can't find average salary in Ontario.
Average is mean, right?
Yes. Probably median. It's hard for me to... These numbers are not going to be the best to start off. So it's, in the 50s.
Okay. All right.
Probably.
And we're out of footage.
So there we go.
We're out of time.
Okay. To finish up, I would like to give a shout out to Eliza. It's not a phase mom, Kaiten. She just needs to focus on her art right now and is very upset that nobody understands her. And this shout out has been brought to you by the Power of Friendship. We'd also like to give a huge thank you to all the people who are supporting us on Patreon. That is Console Peasant and Edwoon, who are supporting us at the highest last word tier. Shawn, Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, and Michael DeVries, who support us on the credited level, and Chris Wolf at the gratitude level. Thanks so much for your support. We'll see you guys next time.
Komoda.